So for people that don't know, this is the first time in all the history of the fighting in the Middle East that Israel has ever directly struck Iran. That may, because I'm sure many people probably think, no, they've struck Iran. No, they've gone into Lebanon before. They fought in Lebanon. They fight in Gaza. Okay, they've never struck Iran. Okay, so, but the thing is, and this is why it's disappointing in people like Candace Owens, who act like a child. She acts like a child when she says, well, why can't Iran get a nuclear weapon? Well, because I think it's been three ayatollahs, that's who heads up Iran. I think it's three in my lifetime. And every single one of them, all three of them, have come out and said, no, as soon as we have that, we want that nuclear weapon because we will strike Israel and wipe them out. Because it's biblical. It is biblical. It is. For those that don't understand, the Middle East, all the Muslims, and Judaism and Christianity, we all have a link with the Bible because the Muslims recognize the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. They recognize Abraham, Muhammad. That's all part of their history. They do. They do. They recognize Jesus. They just believe like Judaism does, that he's just a prophet. They honor, they have, I think it's in Jordan maybe, but I could be wrong. They have some chapel where like John the Baptist's head is. Now, they didn't behead him, even though, all those crazy terrorist organizations in the Middle East do a lot of beheading. But it was some queen in the Bible. But they have, because all of that is their history. So just understand that. So they recognize Abraham, they recognize Moses, they recognize all of it. They recognize the first 5 books of the Bible. And even further, they recognize Jesus, but only as a prophet. Because again, that was all their history too. And you may wonder, well, then why do they follow? Well, I would say they probably follow the path of Cain, okay? That would be my guess. But there's a link there between all three. But so that's why sometimes they haven't said it for a long time, but every now and then you'll get some like leader in Iran that'll say something like, we're here to scold Israel. They recognize the Israelites because they were the Israeli. I mean, like this is why this whole like Palestinians and all this culture thing gets so confusing, because really they were all the same. Do you get what I'm saying? So they totally recognize the Israelites. They just do not believe the people in Israel are those descendants, and so they think it's their job under their false god, even though they say we are the ones that follow the false god. Yeah, if you're following the right God, you shouldn't be, doing the stuff they do, okay? They behead people, they live under, if you're blessed by God, you shouldn't be in the ruins they're in, okay? But they follow a different God. So they recognize all the 5, they recognize the Torah, they recognize all of that, because again, it's all part of their history. But they don't believe the people that were given Israel are really the Israelites' descendants, and so they think that justifies them continually attacking them. Okay, and again, they're attacked on a daily basis. You just don't hear about it because it's every day. It's every day. It's gone on since my whole adult life. Iran pretty much gives weapons to Lebanon, which was where Hezbollah is, or Hamas, which is, of course, where Gaza is. There's always been all these different ones. That's why there's constant bloodshed in the Middle East, because it all goes back to the Bible. It does. So that's why people that think they're so smart that they're atheists, it's like, you really should get on board. There's a ton of people, like, you may think, like, yes, the Muslims follow the Quran now because they follow some path that Muhammad was, I don't know, some descendant of Abraham. I don't know. You'd have to look into it. And he went into some mountain and had some vision. And that's what they follow, okay? So they see Christians as infidels. They see the people in Israel not as the Israelite. They just, are always having violence. Okay, so I think it's easy to see they follow the path of Cain. However, they can never be allowed to get a nuke. Never. Never. Because they've said what they will do with it. So Donald Trump was hoping that they would come to an agreement. And I guess he was rather disappointed, more than disappointed, because the minute they said, no, we will still build the nuke. Because for many years they try to hide it. And they act like they're not building one, but I think now they know they can't hide it, that people will know. But for many years, they would be like, yeah, we'll come to the peace tables, and then they would constantly have to be checked because they've never stopped trying to build it, enrich uranium. And so it's not about them having protection. They have said over and over again what they would do with it because they believe it is their duty to annihilate Israel. So, but it's a big deal because Israel has never directly attacked Iran. So, what will come of this, who knows? They've always been after us because we defend Israel, even though we had nothing to do with this. Now, here's where, for all the stupid people that say Israel controls us, no, they don't. They don't. They do not. We are the ones that have always stopped them from attacking Iran. Am I saying Donald Trump said they should go for it? No, I think Donald Trump just knows that, he leaves it up to, he knows what's going to have to happen because, he just said earlier that they cannot, he wanted to see their country become prosperous and everybody just come, to a peace deal. But it's one simple rule, and it's been that way forever. It's simple. They cannot have a nuke. They cannot, because they've literally said what they do with it, and they're a totalitarian state, always just in disarray. And Donald Trump was very disappointed that they made the decision that they did because, well, given that they were at like 60% enrichment with the uranium, that means they were going to have to be struck. And that's never happened before. So the fallout of that is, well, we'll find out, huh? I'm not saying to be scared, but and I'm not saying it would even come to ground troops. I don't think it would ever come to that with Iran. However, Iran will obviously heavily retaliate because this is Israel. There's a reason. So when people say that Israel controls us, no, we're the ones that have always told Israel, you will not strike them. But in this case, and in this case was the same way. Netanyahu was waiting on, Trump. And Trump had given it a 60-day window. Well, tonight was the end of the 60-day window. They had to make, and they already earlier today had said, you're not going to tell us we can't have a nuke. So that's it. There's nothing else. You can't keep letting them go because it'll be a disaster. Because they will nuke Israel. And so you can't tell Israel not to defend itself when they literally are trying to build it so they can kill them. So it's unfortunate. Donald Trump wanted there to be a peaceful end. So that was, his nod to Netanyahu. He didn't even have to, it was just a known. That they didn't come to the table. They said they were going to keep building it. So we're in brand new territory. But it was eventually going to come to this because Iran has never stopped wanting a nuke. and they've never stopped wanting to annihilate Israel.